So I'm going to try a new way of doing this because I can walk around um, and do it. What I've found is that I want to keep my room the way that it is, which is console and PC on the floor. Shit for looking at the stars and workbench by the window. However, sitting on the floor like that seems to fuck up my spine. It always did when I worked in offices. Like sitting on chairs and sitting upright all day. I don't know if it's something to do with like all your muscles and fat weight just like sliding down into your lower back or something. I don't know. But yeah, it just seems to cause me a lot of pain, which is sort of good for playing games or going on the PC, because it means that after an hour or so I need to get up, walk around and go and do stuff. But for working is not so great, as it means that I need to take breaks every hour. So I think what I did the other day I liked, and as something to think about, it would be like, because I was thinking afterwards, well, it would be cool to do that in a spoken word thing, and basically just do this, what I've written now. I guess for like YouTube videos, it's better to do it as I have been doing. So labeling like what they are. But for like, if I was going to go to like an open mic night, I think it would be better to do what I'm gonna do today, which is more ranting about everything. So I guess there's just different ways of doing it, but like I guess that what I did the other day, seeing as although I posted it over 2 days, it was me sat there for an hour and a half and doing 20-minute topics, whereas so it's exactly the same as what I'm about to do. I just don't really want to give titles to videos about some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about, and some of the stuff's only going to be like 2 minutes long. So I guess it's all flashing stuff out and like it's working stuff out in my mind. So it's a weird thing to think that basically I am being stalked and harassed by. I did a search last night using ChatGPT where, because one of the groups of people that is bullying me basically tried to say we're Orthodox Jewish people, and we do, like looking back through history, there have been periods in time where people just turn on creative people. I think that what that is trying to halt it. But reading up on it, more often than not, what happened was there was a great boom in creativity. So you could see that 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, really, you could say that that's when that happened. Maybe like a little bit through the 2000s, but even then it would have been people born in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and I think after that, it's not that people became less creative, I think they just stifled it. You look at, like I did a search recently on, because like you look at the types of bands that were getting big when I was a kid, which I know that bands were orchestrated by producers and record companies for a while before this, but you look at like, what did you have? The Spice Girls, Boyzone, Backstreet Boys. I mean, you look at the titles of that shit as well, and it's very obvious what they were trying to do with communities. I mean, Spice Girls, it's like Chili. Like this is something that they do in the kink world to try and turn screws, right? Like if you look up spicy porn, more often than not it's like transsexuals and cross-dressers. Boyzone, Backstreet Boys, like what do you associate with like gay people? Backstreet anal sex. Do you know what I mean? The Backstreet Boys. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy that they it's mental that they. I just don't understand why they need to do it. To be honest with you, but I mean that's going to come back to something I'm going to talk about in a minute. But you think that doing this shit, I mean, it's all tied into them thinking that we don't want war in the traditional sense anymore, because the weaponry caused too much damage, right? So it's not so much that they look at the cruelty. It's not so much that they look at the cruelty within war. They don't give a fuck about that, because they've got no problem with psychologically torturing people. They've got no problem with imprisoning people for speaking out loud. They've got no problem with that, so they don't care about the torture. What they care about is that everybody has nukes. That's what they care about. So they think that if everybody has nukes, and if World War II, it does matter which side used the nukes, but it also doesn't, because somebody would have used it. They had the atom bomb, they had nukes, so like at some point, if the US didn't use those bombs, somebody would have. So I think the point of not wanting war to escalate like it has done previously anymore is that nuclear war is going to wipe stuff out. So so basically they don't want to make money off sending people to war in the same way anymore, because they think that nuclear war or atomic war, whatever the fuck they have now, which seems to be on a molecular level just restructuring the physics of the world. That's what it seems to be now, you little fuck. She is fucking awesome at jumping super high. But anyway, which is going to lead me into cat exercise, which I've written down. But like you think they basically needed to reinforce within their religious groups. If you watch Red State, I watched Red State with this religious zealot, right? Who when we started watching it, she loved it. And then I told her what it was. Right. And because then I applied my eyes to it and told her what I thought the film was. Because at the time, she was sort of cheering along and laughing and clapping. When I told her what my perception of the film was, she had a breakdown and wanted me to turn the film off. So I think what you have is these people who are like these, within these small religious groups, they've tried to make it so that, because they had that thing, they've got, I can't remember what it's called, but there's that statue in the US, right, where like printed on it is some worldwide treaty where they basically said that the world shouldn't have more than, I don't know, 14 million people in it or some shit. You think that what that is that's what they've tried to maintain. They've tried to maintain that if there are going to be way more people in the world, what they want is spaces like this. You can barely see that through the window, but what they want is spaces and communities like this where the pollution doesn't fuck people up too much. And the population is still inbred people, where they all keep themselves to themselves. They only breed with people that they know. They only let a small amount of people in, and their churches stay as their churches, and then they bring people in solely for the purpose of hunting them and murdering them with their propaganda and their brainwashing. So again, Spice Girls, Backstreet Boys, Boyzone, all the films that you watch growing up, right? And then the rest of the city. So if you look at Nottingham as a prime example of that, right? Like, I know people that went to other countries to recruit people to come over here and to work minimum wage jobs. Now, those people would have come over here with no savings, and they would have worked for those minimum wage jobs, they wouldn't have been coming to places like this. They wouldn't have been moving to areas like this. They would have been living in the rest of the city. So, basically what they try to do is they try to keep like a 20th of the population of a city who they perceive to be the people that should be running the city. The rest of the 80%, they try to flood it with, they try to make it a melting pot. A melting pot of culture. They know that if they bring in 10, 15, 20 different types of philosophical, ideological cultures, people, places that have different laws, places that have different ethoses towards life, everybody's going to clash. Nobody's going to be able to work together. They're not going to be able to have somebody that will bring everybody together. And they know that that alone will keep all those people divided. Do you know what I mean? You walk through areas like Meadows, you walk through areas like Sneinton, they keep it a melting pot. They keep, like 8, 9, 10 different churches that all beef with each other anyway, because even coming from those set cultures and religions, you just look at Christianity. Do you know what I mean? You've got Methodist, Catholic, Mormon, Christian. You look at all the ways that that's split out through people wanting power and splitting it out, but they all roll together when it comes down to it. I think that's what they've tried to do around the world, and so that by empowering these people in like that Kevin Smith film, which is awesome. I think it's called Red State. But like they basically try and empower these small, tight-knit groups to keep hold of these values, such as everybody's got to be anorexic. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not allowed to have a creative thought for yourself. Everything has to go by the book, which is maddening, really. And you think that what they do is they try and manipulate people into drug use, into infidelity, into various different sexual, I don't know what the term is there, but kinks, essentially. That they know that these small knit groups have, they're basically like dogs, so they go, hate that, right? They don't need to understand, or they don't need to break down why they need to hate that. They just need to be told to hate that. Then they need to be told to go out and manipulate people into doing those things that they hate, so that then they can hate those people and murder them. Like, if they associate if they associate the gay scene with drugs, they can make it so that those people will become depressed from using, they bully them, then they get them addicted to MDMA, which gets rid of that addiction, meth, cocaine, whatever. Then after that, when they want to stop taking the drugs, they have this incredible crash that fucks them up. And then they can't function in life without those substances or without something. They then go to the doctors for assistance with it, and they prescribe something worse for them that fucks them up and then just gets them in an even worse situation. What were you crying for then? So it's crazy, man. I mean, the gay community is an easy one to look at, and it's what I was just talking about them, but like different religions, same thing. It's almost the same, and it almost works, like goes hand in hand. So if you bring Italians over here, you bring Indians over here, you bring Pakistanis over here, they have a different diet that they used to. So they have a higher level of fat content, they have a higher level of carbohydrate content, because they used to work loads harder in a way higher heat. So when they come over here, and they eat that food, which is what their body's used to, so their brain functions better from eating that food, but then they get obese. You don't really see, like, you do see obesity in those countries. It tends to be in old age, when people are, it tends to be in 40s, 50s, or with incredibly rich people. Do you know what I mean? In Muslim communities, in Mediterranean communities, you tend to start to see it when people slow down. Whereas over here, you see it in young ages. It's because a lot of those people are used to getting up at 5, 6 in the morning or earlier, working their ass off, and then in their break times, they're dealing with 30 to 50 to 45 degree heat. So in the times where they're sleeping or they're resting, they're still burning shitloads of calories. They get them over here, they know that those people are then going to look overweight again. These like religious zealots can look at that and go, fat, consuming too much energy, when actually they're not. It's just that in their DNA, it's a whole like wrap up thing. It's again, I guess, why they call these people spiders. They call this pulling on the threads, the fabric of society. They call this like fucking with the web. Do you know what I mean? That holds everything together if you start talking about this. It's crazy, man. And then what they do is, it's like in the church meeting I was in yesterday, which not going to because it's a church. Strangely, they tried to disguise it was a church. They tried to disguise it as a church with their advertising, but then through that, as soon as you step through the door, they tell you that they run in conjunction with the church. And it's a weird one, because the church that they're a part of probably was when I was taking food parcels because I was broke, probably the only church that gave out healthy food to the people that were going there. So on the one hand, I thought, like, out of the 3 places I got food parcels from, they actually had like crates of spinach, carrots, do you know what I mean? Whereas all the other ones that I went to, they just gave you canned food. And I thought, well, it's definitely like, if they're getting people's brains to function better through the food that they're offering them, that's at least giving them an option to get out of the situation that they're in, if they want to get out of it. And the other thing that they're doing is, I don't really like their teaching methods, but they're giving me skills. Off the woodwork course yesterday, I now want to use a load of this old wood that I've got to make some shit for my family for Christmas. But at the same time, I don't understand why I have to be bullied. do you know what I mean? It almost seems like what they're saying is, we like you, you can come and be our friend, but to be our friend, you have to not be these things that you are naturally. And it's like, well, I don't really want that. I don't really want to drop parts of my personality. Constant like fat jokes. All the men and women seem to be anorexic. Which again is like fine if that's what you think helps you. But for me, a mate of mine said to me years ago, like, hey man, if you can run 10k, cycle 20k, and do an hour of weightlifting a day, fucking 6 days a week, and you're fat, you should probably stay fat doing that. Because having that weight on you and being able to do all that, do you know what I mean? Like, that's a good thing. I don't really have to see many problems with. I also don't think that I'm that overweight. But it's to the point where they're getting people to follow me around in the street and like make jokes about how Henry VIII wasn't even that fat and shit. I think, like, what the fuck, man? You look at people and like, look at JK. Seems to do absolutely fucking fine. Being a pretty amazing MC, right? Like, guy's fat as a motherfucker. I don't really understand why it matters. So there's large aspects of what these people try and instill in you that I think Why? There's a guy that lives in my block of flats, right? Who seems to like he seems to be doing shit that most young drug dealers do. I don't have a problem with selling weed. I don't really have a problem with weed, but I do think that targeting the wrong people is not okay. Especially targeting people that you think are addicts because you think it's an easy way to make money off them. Fucked up, but what he seems to be doing is just going and sitting by places that there are loads of kids and just smoking weed to try and get sales. And I think, I don't know about that, man. It's fucked up because I wouldn't mind buying some weed and smoking it once a week, but it's always the people that you're buying it off that's the fucking problem. I want to be giving money to somebody that's behaving like that. Do you know what I mean? I want to give money to people that are funding shit that's fucking people up. Why would I want to do that? It's almost again like this whole thing where they try to say, oh, if weed is illegal, then they get these same groups of religious people to attack people. Like they're getting way less on it, and now through looking at the effects of smoking weed, they actually seem to want people to smoke weed. I think that's why in the UK you can now get it on prescription. But like, I don't mind. If it was cheaper, I wouldn't. They probably wouldn't ever give me a prescription because the police have said that I have psychosis for complaining about being abused by them, for complaining about being harassed by these church groups. I probably wouldn't get a prescription, which seems massively counterproductive. To have these substances that would help you. Fuck it, I'm not really going down. I don't really want to go down that route right now. But yeah, I mean, it's mad. It did take me thinking about that this morning. Did take me to thinking about Elon Musk and a documentary I watched with like a biographer that worked on writing the story about his life. And like, I think one of his siblings became trans or something, and that's what led him from being a liberal person, from being like a liberal-minded person into being a right-wing person. And I think that's what I realised was their trap quite a long time ago, but at least within the last like 5 years. But I think that I think that essentially what they did was, and what they always do, they look at people being happy and having a good time and they go, we're going to ruin that. The same thing as what caused all the riots in the 80s. They look at communities and they go, why are they happy? We're not happy. Let's go ruin their fucking life. Do you know what I mean? So I think that they looked at the gay community, trans community, whatever, and what they did was, by being these sort of like religious fanatic people, they went, okay, now what we need to do is we need to make everybody think that we've manipulated people into being these things. So if they can make out that these organisations that people don't like have manipulated people into that, they can then get people that are, if they can make an Elon Musk, the richest person in the world, think that, because if they can make them think that it's all a ploy to fuck people over and that the liberal people in the US did this to him, it makes him it makes him want to become Republican, right? It makes him want to become conservative. Whereas what I did was look at it and go, watch this thing on the kink world, watch this documentary on the kink world, and watched what happened to the guy that made the documentary afterwards. He then all of a sudden became, after doing this expose on the kink world, he then became like a far right person. And I thought, he's been so when you look at all of the information that's in front of you, and you look at all the facts, you go, okay, this is people wanting to destroy that because they need people to die. They want to murder people. So they want to take people that are happy doing something and they want to manipulate people into thinking that they've set that up. Drug use, or everything that's on the counterculture. It's almost like when you're a child, they set you up thinking it's good to go into this, right? They set you up thinking, like, they show you music that promotes smoking weed, blah, 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 blah. Cocaine, various different drugs. And then when you're at an age where it starts to become something bad, and you go and seek help for it, they don't want to let you change. They don't want to let you change into something different because you need to be someone that they could murder. And if you stand up and you change it, it means that other people will stand up and change it and not fall into that path. So they need to go out and murder everybody, especially people that are strong enough to fuck with. That's why I think they're spiking my water. Because they can't have it. So what they need to be saying is, they're spiking me with drugs now because they need to make people think that I'm only what I am because they're spiking me constantly. And they need to make people think that I'm doing it, I think. I think they're trying to make people think that I'm doing something. They told me a few weeks ago, we're going to get you arrested on possession. Most of the things that they try and set me up with, if I talk about it, it doesn't happen. But when I don't talk about it, it usually happens. So I think that what they're doing is they're spiking my water supply, and if I say, well, in this building, do you know what I mean? They have like a septic tank. They have the ability. How fucking easy would it be to just repressurize pipework after pouring substances into someone's drinking water? It's, again, going into the world of how much energy these people expend when what their main issue seems to be is that these people are expending too much energy. Seems to be the whole thing that they're built around, these like religious fanatics going, this person's expending too much energy, right? So they seem to think that money is an indication of life, which it's definitely not. I seem to think that money should be an indication of everything to do with energy, lifespan, energy that you require, energy that you can pay for, blah, 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 which it's not. So they seem to think that they need to tie everything all into that. They need to tie everything into money. It's why I think that they destroy. You have kids on parks playing football. They go put a bunch of like 30-year-old police officers to go onto the parks and play guitar and dress like they're 15, so that they can then fuck up the groups of people who are having fun for free. So that they can drive them into. So that they don't then want to play football as a free community. So that they then want to go and join a club that's policed. It's mad. It is infuriating, really. But yeah, you think of like so I can tell you right now that 1, 2, 3, 4 flats, right, at least in this building. Another 2 people on the top floor. One guy with glasses and like short, straight, sort of like blonde auburn hair. This other like guy that keeps telling me he's a gypsy. I've got no idea if that's true. At least like 6 or 7 flats. They're using people within this building to fuck with me. Another guy over there, right? So at least 8 people in these flats. And then I looked up who runs and owns these flats. They're all people in the creative community that look like dickheads. And I think, so how much energy are you fucking expending on trying to fuck me up? On trying to take my... This is essentially what they're doing, right? They're making it so that I can't use my creativity. What they're doing is that they don't want to waste that energy, though. So they're taking it and turning it into insults. Creating films, TV series, podcasts, radio shows, music They're taking my words, they're taking my plans, they're taking my stories, and they're putting it into stuff with the sole intention of insulting me and destroying me. I think it is, how much energy is that using? And on top of that, seemingly what they're doing is they're having to use all of this as washes, because people, the majority of people with any level of intellect, don't want to watch any of it anymore. They don't want to listen to the music. They don't want to go. They don't want any of that. And I think it's a double-edged sword. They're trying to tank creativity because they can see that decent creativity was opening people's eyes, just saying fuck religion. You look at what they did with the Beatles. Look at what they did with John Lennon. Look at what they did with Jimi Hendrix. Look at what they did with Tupac. Look at what they did with Eazy-E. Look what they did with Nirvana. Look what they did with so many musicians, painters. Van Gogh, fucking who's the guy that I was reading about last night? Picasso. Look at what they did with like all of these people. They made it so that throughout their whole lives, they made nothing, and they had very little influence. That isn't what they did with Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain for sure, or Tupac. But what they did with a lot of artists when they could is they made it so that those people weren't paid attention to. They stifled their voice, they stifled their influence, because they knew about what had happened in previous times. So like you look at various artistic revolutions in the past. They took over time periods, and everybody all of a sudden started behaving in the same way. I think the church looked at that and went, we can't have that. They cut off bloodlines. Da Vinci, they cut off bloodlines and they kill people, and then after the fact they can manipulate their artwork. They can make money off it. Even if they can't manipulate the artwork, they can make money off it, and they can build a load of crap artists that are completely anti that message, but sound the same. It's fucked, man. It's really, really fucked. A lot of these people believe in like sacrificing their kids. You look at like the Jim Morrison thing. They think that they're sacrificing for the greater good, which doesn't seem to be for a greater good. So they believe in sacrificing, like, you know, the guy that caused Vietnam gets his son to run the hippie movement. Probably, I don't think Jim Morrison was an undercover agent. Do you know what I mean? And when it goes that far that it's actually inspiring people to do something so anti within its movement that they see it's a problem, that it wasn't actually causing obedience, that it was causing people to be able to rebel without violence and with using their words and creativity. So they kill them then. I think it's the same as like looking at various artists that they do that with. You know, you look at these like singers or musicians that in their 20s, 30s behaved in a certain way, and then you see them in their 40s, 50s, they're completely different people, and you think they're trying to make it so that those people, they murder them. They manipulate them into doing something so that they can manipulate the populace. I think this is another reason why they hide kids. So they get one person to raise a child, knowing that they're raising someone else's child, then they can hate that child and sacrifice them. It's the whole like biblical thing of the first son, firstborn or first son or whatever gets sacrificed. And what that means is giving it up to the church, police, whatever. Like, fucking, it's cool when you see the messaging in that they put into different films, but you think that's why they're trying to fuck certain people up, right? Because you think a lot of these people, right, because they try to get rid of creativity, they don't actually have eyes. They can't see. They don't have a third eye. They can't see. If you want to strengthen your third eye, by the way, a great way that seems to be really working well for me is blasting my head, so the whole front of my forehead, in ice cold water. In like my shower goes super cold, blasting my head until I basically get brain freeze, and then I hold it for about another 10 seconds. That seems to work really well, and it's much better, probably a lot better for you than using ice cream to get that same result. But it seems to definitely wake up my thought processes. Yeah, I mean, I've basically just been holding like ice water over my head and then my core, and making everything else hot before I leave the bath or shower, and then just making my core and my head freezing cold. But I think a lot of these people don't have eyes, and a lot of these people can't see anything. So like I'm guessing that they watch Die Hard 2 and they go, oh fantastic, look at the police murdering these goddamn, you know, they go, oh yes, that's great, police murdering terrorists or whatever, right? What they don't see is like the people that are the people that are masquerading as construction workers have got DWP written on their helmet, and they're taking over a church, right? So you think DWP means, like in a lot of different communities and countries, DWP over here means Department of Work and Pensions. In the US, I think it means the Democratic Workers' Party. In India, it means something else, like again, it's probably something to do with the occult. A lot of these things like SS or 8 or the number 8 or the number 10, X, they all mean something within the occult, within the satanic communities. So you think like, it's fucked up, man. It's pretty fucked up. You think D, W and P, they probably mean something. D, D-O, Deus. Yeah, I don't really need to, I can't really be fucked to work that out right now, but I'm sure if other people looked into it, it would mean something in probably in Latin. Or maybe some older language. But, you know, a lot of these, so you think that and that's probably why they killed Bruce Willis. Do you know what I mean? That's probably straight up why he has, probably straight up why they gave him some sort of like brain disorder where he can't think properly or retain memory or information because of being involved with Quentin Tarantino, being involved with Die Hard. You think like, sometimes you think, would he have known what he was doing? Do you know what I mean? Was he aware? Would he have even been complicit? Was he just an actor, and did they just murder him because of that? You think like, just the same as what they do when, if they know you're taking cocaine or if they know you're smoking weed, they need it to be attributed to what they've said the problems are in society. Oh shit, I've got a doctor's appointment soon. So they will get people from the church to follow you around and talk about shit that they've extracted from other people within their church to make it so that you seem paranoid. So that they can say smoking weed is against the law, because then they believe, oh, smoking weed is against the law because it doesn't make money for the government. Right? You look at even CBD, they've made it legal, but you can't buy seeds to grow your own. You have to have a license, a business, you have to have a license to grow your own, and that license is for selling it. You can only grow it if you sell it. You can't grow your own medication. Do you know what I mean? So they've managed to legalize it, but make it so that you can't make your own. It's the same with all other drugs. You know, like doing various substances on my own, you can do them occasionally, not be addicted, and they have fairly positive effects. But the way that they get us to drink alcohol, consume drugs, is so that it kills you. Fucked up, man. Um, yeah, I don't really see, but I think that that's how they got Elon, man. I think that that's how they took him because, like I said, looking at a lot of different types of porn, it's you see a lot of it. They'll have crucifixes in the background, and I started thinking, okay, so that's saying that the church is responsible for this, and then I thought, I don't think it was always the way. I think the church just jumped in, just in the same way that in Die Hard 2, they've got the sort of metaphor there, or the imagery of the government taking control of spirituality, right? So I think if you've got the government taking control of spirituality and making it into a organization that needs to make money, rather than an organization that just needs to speak to people and get the best out of them, then yeah, it doesn't bode well for people, really. And I think that spirituality is what connects people with creativity. So if you have the government running creativity, right, if you have the government running spirituality, which maybe used to push creativity, and looking up on ChatGPT, the reason that they've cracked down on creativity in the past is because the religions say it's heresy. People's individual creativity, they believe, stretches it away from the narrative that they need to push. They can't retain strength. That's why they try and murder people. That's why they try and murder people, and they don't murder people if they're going to go down as a martyr. So they will attack people's character to the point where people, if they die, they're no longer martyred. They seemed like they were something that was decent, and it went. That's why they get all these people within charities to be scum. That's why they get these people running Framework, running various charities and churches in Nottingham, and I'm sure in the UK and in different countries, fucking the Red Cross, Boop or whatever it's called. They get these people running these organisations that are scum, that are complete pieces of shit. And the reason they do that is so that if people go in there to genuinely try and help out, they don't want those people in their communities unless they're with those people. So what they try and do is they try and use drugs, or they try and use various psychological impacts. The same as like Bruce Willis, they know through ghettos, through what they did prior to World War II, through what they were doing in Russia, Germany, they know that the psychological impacts of what happens to you in education, what happens to you where you grow up, they know that impacts on your psyche so much. So if they need to make you insane, they can. So if the drugging doesn't work, if they can't manipulate you to do stuff that they can burn you and make sure that nobody listens to you again, then they'll make you insane by doing the sort of shit that they're doing with me, just getting me surrounded at all times with people trying to manipulate my messages and people trying to make out that I'm insane or violent. Because there's the whole thing, every human being is capable of violence, right? Every human being is capable of anger. You think, is it? I think back to the fights I had when I was a kid. We didn't use physical violence for like 2 years of getting beaten up. It doesn't make you a violent person to be violently attacked for 2 years and then to violently attack someone. That's not a violent person. That's somebody who is being oppressed, abused, and bullied, and then standing up for themselves. But you think that that's how they try and manipulate this? If they can basically torture me over and over and over again by not using violence, knowing that they're using groups of people to do it, they're thinking that eventually I will snap because I did when I was a child. And this is what they do with people all across the globe, because I've seen it. And more often than not, what they do is they get these people who they want you to think that they're not violent people. They somehow think that putting them in glasses, they somehow think that like putting somebody in glasses and in various different outfits. They think that that will make people think that they're not violent because they want you to test them. They also are fully aware that what they will do is if you hurt someone, they will just wait until you go for a walk on your own, and then they'll use 12 police officers to attack you. And they'll make out to everybody else that it was your fault. Because of the psychological torture that they won't let people know that you were psychologically tortured. They'll say it was paranoia because you went against the grain. It's funny even learning about woodwork where they tell you to never go against the grain, and you think you always have to go. You always have to go against the grain. Like look at this river out there, right? It's like, yeah, sure. You can swim with you can go with the flow for sure, right? But like you know if you swim in that river with the current, you're also extremely likely for that current to whip you into the fucking bridge and crush your skull against the wall. Same if you're in a fucking boat. If the wind is too fucking strong, going with the flow is going to kill you. Sometimes, before there being bridges built, you might have needed to swim across the river. Any river in the world. Any river you might have needed to swim across to get food. So even the whole thing of like, don't ever go against the grain, like, there's a lot of times in life where people needed to go against the grain. Where people needed to build bridges, where people needed to go against the flow. I think it's like a lot of these old metaphors that they hold on to don't even carry any weight these days. Don't carry any weight. And like for me, I've been absolutely fine lifting weight. I can probably lift weight until my 60s, 70s. Not going to have any fucking effect. It doesn't really have any effect on me, and that is absolutely fine to have all these people going, yeah, well, we like sitting at desks using IT to fuck with people now. Okay, you do that then. There's a reason why companies that are progressive in IT and tech even just have table tennis tables. Get people to walk around. But they don't want that in cities like this. Yeah, I mean, I sort of want to concentrate on the Elon thing. Because I'm not trying to get inside, I'm not trying to get inside anybody's head. But it is obvious what they've done there. They've attached themselves to because this is, again, there isn't really much hatred here. You know, if people are within the church, and I guess this is their problem, and this is what people have been telling me for years, you're fucking with their money. That's essentially what people are saying to me. You're fucking with their money. I think, but they're making money off killing people that I love. So, do you know what I mean? Like, why? They're making money off either turning or killing people that I love. Communities that I love, spaces that I love, businesses that I love. That's how they're making money. Musicians, artists that have inspired me, they're making money off killing those people and then manipulating their messages. So they're doing the same thing to me and to us. But yeah, it's pretty fucked up. Like, because I just started looking at, and again, much the same as with what happened at Boots, where I went to the manager of the managers and went, yeah, I see everything that you're doing here, and laid it out and explained it to him, and he went, wow, you're very. I can't remember the exact terminology that he said, but he said, you're very clever. You are. What section of the business do you want to move into? None of them. It was exactly the same with me talking to someone on the far right about what they're doing with the kink world and with sexuality. And he acted like I was like impressed by it. I thought, no, you're just another person that is just murdering your own people, and then calling anybody that talks about it a rat. Rats eat their own. Rats can't talk. Rats don't look at shit, analyze what's going on, and then tell all the other rats. Rats eat their own. So, yeah, it's even worse, right? So the majority of the time when I do this, a lot of these people that are involved in this go, "You're a baby. You just need to get on board." And you think, no, like again, babies can't talk. They just go with the flow. Babies can't talk. They just do what their mum and dad say. Right? I have. You go ask my mum and dad if you want. I've always been someone that questioned everything. So I think it's almost every single time that shit like this happens, I think, well, your main insults at the minute have been that what? I'm a comic book guy. I like comics and graphic novels, so fucking what? Okay. Call me comic book guy if you want. I think that nickname already went to someone else. I don't quite know why I would try and take that from a man, really. But I think that babies go with the flow and do what they're... Babies and dogs go with the flow and do what they're told. People look at what's happening and they make their own decisions. But yeah, it does, even if you look at it, right, so objectively, and I think that this comes again with like the poetry of the world and the irony of the world, right? You look at like these weird fucking people that are like, they either try and set people up to appear like they're evil in some way, that they're going against the grain. So like a girl told me that her dad was basically a paedophile hunter, right? There's this girl I was dating a couple of years ago. And I was like, okay. He said, yeah, he used to, him and my mate's dad got me and my friend to dress up in like skimpy outfits, and then they recorded us doing dance routines and they posted us on YouTube so that they could see how many people were watching those videos repeatedly, right? And I thought, interesting, that's cool. But at what point as a paedophile hunter do you not go, well, this is exactly what paedophiles do. Paedophiles get together with their friends and they strip kids naked and they record videos of them and they post them online. So at what point, I remember reading an expose about how a journalist had infiltrated a bunch of paedophile hunters and found out that the majority of them were convicted paedophiles that the police then used to trap other paedophiles up. And you think the police just does seem to be one of those organisations these days where that is their sole purpose. They don't want to arrest drug dealers and put them in prison. They want to use them to make money off them and to kill more people. They don't want to put paedophiles in prison. They want to use them to catch more of them so they can make more money off them and blackmail more of them. They don't give a fuck about the moral implications. It's not what they're about anymore, and haven't been for a fucking long time. It's exactly the same as I knew someone that used to run a bar that did the same thing. Get 15, 16-year-old girls in near enough bikinis to serve old rich men with money drinks for the same purpose. You think, yeah, but if you look at the definition of paedophile, if you look at what their actions are, it is getting children naked and recording them for the purpose of other people wanking off to it. So I don't quite know at what point these people don't take a look at themselves and realise that what they are is exactly the sorts of people that they're trying to catch. It's mad. But again, they don't want to hear that because apparently it's fucking with their money. Um, I mean, that was all I wrote down, really. Oh, I guess 55 minutes of that is absolutely fine. Yeah, the cat exercise is fun though. It seems like, because I started thinking about this old guy that walks his dog down the road, and it is a really fucking cool looking dog. And I thought, I guess one way to stop my cats from being like super erratic in the morning. So they have this period at about 6 in the morning where for about half an hour to an hour they just go fucking mental. And then they do the same at about 9 p.m. I read that it's because that they sleep in the daytime because they could the predators that hunt them are less active in the daytime, as long as one of them in their little clan's awake-ish, or as long as they take the higher ground. They then hunt themselves in the dark because they're less likely to be spotted, seen when they're hunting and when they're being hunted. But what I've started doing is just using a laser pen and just, it's almost like what I'm doing by going for a run around the river in the morning. Makes me a lot calmer, makes me a lot less like switchy, and it makes me a lot more able to form my thoughts and ideas. Whenever I clear up my mind and heal myself and write down the points of what I talk about, I'm extremely happy with what I'm doing. Whenever I just blow up and I think that is, I think solely for me at the minute, doing about 2 hours of exercise at least 5 days a week, and having a bath 4 or 5 days a week seems to be very similar to what I'm doing with my cats, which is using a laser pen. I just run them around in a circle. The boy cat, I think, so the boy cat realised a long time ago, I think when I was in my last flat, he just started looking at the laser pen. We just started not chasing the laser point after that. I don't know if it's some weird thing, because I read that a lot of cats can't do that. But now, there's another one of the kittens who he looks at the screen and chases stuff on the screen. But none of the other cats care about the screen at all. I think, oh. And now, that other cat that looks at the screen, he's now also started looking at the laser pointer. And he doesn't chase the laser pointer either. So the other 3 cats will chase, which is good for them, right? So like, if they don't see the pointer in my hand, they just chase it. So I run around in a circle for like 6-7 minutes, and then just go up and down, then point it up the wall, they jump up super high. And then they're really chilled out. For the next hour or two, they're just calm, they just look out the window, they're just chilled. And then they sleep till about 9 p.m. And then I do the same thing for about 10 minutes then. That seems to help them a lot more so. But I still think that they should be outside, pets. I still really want a house, so that I can let them outside, man. Because I think then the 2 boys will come into their own, because at the minute, the 2 black and white girls, they're doing the best, but it's almost like training drills, right? Because the laser's not real. So that they're not, I think the 2 boys have become lethargic because they know that they're looking at something that's cut, there's a pointer from my hand. They know it's not an insect, they know it's not something to hunt, they know it's not something to fight. So, and the rest of their energy has become like deflated and depleted. But the 2 girls, they're fucking rapid. They jump super high, they're super quick when they're hunting. Like the speed of their hands and feet and the grip that they have and the height that they can jump is so fucking quick. But I think it's almost like the same as like when I used to play Metal Gear Solid, I never liked playing the VR missions. Like it's sort of fun for about 10 minutes and then you go, well, there isn't much more to this apart from these. Like when you're playing the actual game, you're using the same puzzles. except it's like a storyline that you're following. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the same thing. I think the two girls aren't. They don't look at the laser pointer. They just look at the laser. So they look really fucking good and really fucking skillful, because they're just looking at the where I'm pointing the light. But the two boys don't. So I almost feel like it's cruel not to go to get a house. Do you know what I mean? I almost feel like it's cruel not to let the boys outside, because it's almost like it's killing them. They don't want to do any exercise, they don't want to do anything. They're just lethargic. I think you can just see it in their body language, like, because they don't want to hurt the female cats when they fight either. My girl cat hissed at the boy cat the other day when they were fighting, and then he stopped fighting with her, so it's like, they don't want to hurt the girl cat, so they can't even fight with them. They don't want to hurt each other, because when they hiss, it's almost like a message that they go, okay, I'll stop now. Otherwise, we're just going to hurt each other. But then they've actually got nothing else to hunt, because they know that the laser pen is just a game.